Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Energy News Beat Daily Stand-Up Weekly Summary. Hey, we sure appreciate all of our great listeners and all of the folks that are hitting the energynewsbeat.co website. I mean, it is going bonkers. It is one of the very successful world news sites, and we just appreciate everybody. We appreciate all the listeners that have been listening this week, and our numbers are going through the roof on the podcast, and it's because of you. Like, subscribe, and send Michael and I notes. We are having such a blast. I'm also really excited about the upcoming CEOs in Industry Thought Leadership podcast we're getting scheduled out there, and I mean, I have a lot of fun. If you're an industry thought leader in the energy or geopolitical space, give me a note. Shout out. I'd love to have you on the podcast. If you are any kind of interested and you want to get your word out, let me know. I want to hear from you. Okay, there is some really big trends going on. Those trends are all around energy independence, and also what countries are going to need to survive. Those countries need energy independence. And in Europe, Sweden and a few others are really looking to they're questioning whether or not they need to stay in the EU. Borders are a true issue in Europe. In my opinion, borders are a real issue here in the United States. Countries that cannot survive if they don't have energy independence and borders. So with that, hey, enjoy the shows this week that Michael and I did. It has been a really busy week. Thank you, and look forward to talking to you guys soon. Have a great weekend. Biden EPA announces toughest ever rules for power plant emissions. Michael, this is critical because it really dumps into some serious meat in the grid. The EPA unveiled its strictest ever rules for power producing using natural gas, coal, and oil that could spur the use of carbon capture technologies. Carbon capture, CCUS, is not a bad thing, but let's come down to what some of it is. It's over 681 pages. The agency argued that co-firing hydrogen as a substitute for natural gas can qualify as a systems emission reduction. So what they're wanting to do is go to carbon net zero using anything they can. Michael, this one paragraph and then the following under it, the EPA recognizes even though the combustion of hydrogen is near zero, its production entails a range of greenhouse gas emissions from low to high, depending on the method. The technologies to capture 90% of carbon dioxide have become adequately demonstrated and cost reasonable while realizing substantial emission reductions. This is not true. This is 100% not true. Hydrogen, in its creation, it uses about 4 times the amount of energy that is displaced when burned. It also uses a lot of water. Hydrogen, unless it's being made by natural gas, is using a lot of water. So this is just a total misnomer. It's going to drive the price for electricity even higher, and it'll be sustainable, but the price is not there.
Yeah, and I think this is where the fundamental disagreement is with industry and then the EPA. Here's a quote from the EPA spokesperson. The proposed limits and guidelines follow EPA's traditional approach under the Clean Air Act to control pollution from stationary sources, but this is the important part, by relying on control technologies that are cost effective and can be applied directly to power plants to reduce CO2. That's exactly what we're talking about. Control technologies, carbon capture, that's CCUS. So the question is that now cost effective? The EPA seems to think so. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because I agree. They also claim in this report that technologies can capture 90% of carbon dioxide have become adequately demonstrated and cost reasonable while realizing substantial emissions reductions. I think that's, I mean, we will see. All I know is oil and Oxy, Exxon, Chevron, they're gearing up for this. We saw in the latest offshore bid that came for offshore oil leasing.
That is right.
We had some shallow stuff that was picked up in order to do some CCS by both Exxon and Chevron. We know Oxy's big into that.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
They saw this coming down the pike. They're not dumb.
No, it's a multi-trillion-dollar market, and I'm all for it, Michael. The technology, just like in renewables, is not there yet. You know, natural gas is supposed to be the bridge fuel till we get there. 2030 is not that far off. 2035, we're still not. In fact, the EU Prime Minister said we are stuck using fossil fuels for decades. He said that last week. So at least somebody is admitting it.
Yeah. And, you know, unfortunately, the EPA has fairly unilateral authority to just announce these rules and put them into existence. So it'll be interesting to see how these things play out. I think it's time we get to our comedy segment, Stu.
Oh, yeah. U.S. climate envoy John Kerry in 2021 said America simply won't have coal on its grid by 2030. The man is a ketchup magnet. I mean, he can't have a hamburger without having, his family is from all the Heinz. That's where he's got all of his money. What a knucklehead. You cannot pull coal off of the grid yet. And if you're going to not support natural gas, we won't make it. The man is a ketchup hound.
I'm a mustard guy myself.
When China invades Taiwan, there are some energy consequences. Yeah, think. Okay. There's some similarities. The author of this article absolutely did great. There are the first steps. China and Russia have similar things in common. Both are authoritarian states. Both lost territory in the 20th century. Both are set on redressing and attacking again. We already got one of them attacking Ukraine. China has been grumping around on this for a long time. President Xi has got some real problems with his economy. And in the past, whenever a communist leader has got some problems, they declare war on somebody. And
well, it's an easy way to stimulate your own economy at home because you have to begin to up your production. I mean, it's an unfortunate reason, but there's an oddly tactical reason for it.
Oh, exactly. The scale of the shock, assume for a moment, this is one of the paragraphs in here, that China launches a full-scale invasion tomorrow, and imagine that the Taiwanese people and its military do not surrender instantly, as the Ukrainians were supposed to do. Imagine the headlines, imagine the political response, and imagine the economic fallout. Holy smokes, think about the world's economy stopping and wondering what's going to go on. It would be even a bigger shock if the U.S. plus or minus allies retaliated militarily. There's even some more things in here. This is the energy policy challenges of Europe. Of China. They don't care. They've been doing the rare earth minerals for 20 years. And now all of a sudden, all of our country is sitting there going, we're going to go to EVs. We got to have rare earth minerals and critical minerals. And it takes how many years, Michael? My beloved School of Mines graduate. It takes a long time to dig a hole, doesn't it?
Mines are 50-year investments. You know, I think this article points out that we've at least done a decent job of recognizing that China's a threat on this point, through the CHIPS Act. And, we've done an okay job of saying that, okay, they are a threat on this where the energy policy gets dicey, specifically with when China invades Taiwan, if that's what the sentiment we're going to, it's going to be that clean energy economy. That's where the ripple effect is through. They own the critical mineral supply chain. It's going to be very hard for us to, in an instant, get lithium, nickel, copper, cobalt, of all things, to
wind turbines, solar panels.
Yep.
And if we destroy the natural gas machine,
we're not going to be able to pick that machine up. You're exactly right. And that's where it's going to hurt us, is we're going to end up with way more demand than we have in dispatchable power and are not going to be able to. So I think, this article goes on to point out the dangers of the gradualistic approach, which I think is key. We can't do death by 1,000 cuts. You got to cut the head off the snake now. And cut the head off the snake, secure our own supply chain. You can't, China's going to do what China's going to do. We got to secure our own supply chain so that when the inevitable happens, we're good to go.
Oh, well said, dude. I like it.
Michael Tanner, Secretary of State, 2024.
I think so. You would actually, hey, I'd vote for you. Let me call Trump.
Yeah, no kidding.
EU raw material targets need money and faster permits, Sector Chief says. Michael, we can't grow the grid in the U.S. We can't supply EVs without critical minerals. We can't get to carbon net zero without critical minerals or natural gas or nuclear. So, as President Bush would say, nuclear. Under the EU Critical Raw Materials Act, which has yet to enter force, the bloc has set 2030 targets for the minerals required for its green transition. 10% of annual needs mined, 15% recycled, and 40% processed in Europe. Those are unattainable numbers.
Yeah, I mean, is there any lithium in Europe? No, of course not. So what are they going to do?
Take it from their teeth? I don't know.
Germany's going to be invading Poland for lithium.
Oh, smack. Bernard Schaefer, CEO of the EIT Raw Materials, an EU-funded group. There's some
there's some dark money. That's about as dark as it gets.
I was going to say there's some corruption waiting to happen.
EU-funded climate group. Ooh, I bet that's a creepy guy. I bet that guy's creepy at parties.
Oh yeah. Ooh, bet he knows Epstein. Okay. One of the key elements to accelerate investment and mobilize financing for mining and permitting. This will have to happen very soon. Michael, China has had 20 years of building their supply chain of critical minerals. You're not going to go, well, look at the time. I need a supply chain of minerals. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, it is funny how they state, it is like what we said in the open. It's like that scene from Back to the Future. Hello, McFly. Anybody home? Hello, McFly. You've been asleep at the wheel now for 20 years. Wake up now. Oh, we need faster permitting and mining. They're clearly not listening to the show. We clearly don't quite have Brussels listening to the show.
Oh, no, not yet. Norway and Russia. We are big news source in for the Russians. Let's go over here.
Of course you are, Putin Jr.
Hey, they want to know my imitation of Putin. I am so funny in Russia.
Yeah, just I hope he likes our impression enough to where when he points the nukes, he points it away from us.
Oh yeah, well, he doesn't call me,
Who knows, Putin Jr.
French energy report seeks return of energy sovereignty. France used to be, Michael, the #1 exporter of energy in the EU. Now that they have spent no money on their nuclear fleet, again, 52 nuclear reactors, they're only using 25% because of maintenance.
It's insane.
Okay, so it's insane. I love this quote. I'm not going to read this in French because I can barely speak English, Michael. The French Parliament published a report entitled opening it. So, I can't even pretend to say that. Everybody go to Energy News Beat and read it. But I love it. I can come down in here and say what led to the situation described as a total loss of energy sovereignty, and how did the country go from a leading energy exporter to former High Commissioner for Atomic Energy Yevs Brek described as a quote unquote headless duck?
Well, listen to this. It gets even more insane. So the opening of this report says basically that the only reason that they avoided blackouts this winter was through a combination of lower industrial output and a decline in comfort levels of ordinary citizens. I mean, straight up admitting it. So
Right.
it's, I mean, I'll applaud them for at least stating what happened. They're not lying to their people. I think the issue is, okay, if you're France now, what do you do moving forward? You've got to turn on some of those nuclear reactors. You have to.
You can't because they've been unmaintenanced, and now they're the water pipes are rusted. They can't even use them now. It's going to cost more to put them back online. This is like California stupid. One of the I'm sorry, even Scooby would go.
Scooby's freaking out over this one.
Oh yeah, Scooby's gonna lose his French Scooby croissant, instead of a Scooby snack. Okay, final energy consumption in France. You have oil and refined products, Michael. When you go down and you see that chart on there, we may have to have our producer slide this chart in here. Oil and refined products is over 50% of their energy.
Yeah, it's not good. That's not good. It's not good. That's way too much oil. They got to get that on natural gas. It's absolutely insane. I won't be visiting France anytime soon.
Okay. Underlying second cause. You always love your second order magnitude things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're seeing a real call for the EU as an organization to be dissolved. And I think that this is only one of the underlying reasons you're going to see this come around the corner with energy sovereignty in a nation. A nation has to have energy independence and borders in order to survive. This is going to be the demise of the EU. Anyway,
interesting.
Thanks. Yeah, you heard it here second. Hey, thank you again for your time this week. We just appreciate all of our good customers and clients, and also all the listeners for the Energy News Beat Daily Stand-Up and also the ENB podcast. Thanks. Give us a shout out, give us a like, give us 5-star smash, hit that. I'm just trying to talk like a young podcaster. I'm having too much fun. Have a great weekend. Talk to y'all soon.